Hey everybody, what's going on? It's PMOC at 86 Drive. Well, last time I made the announcement that I was going to be getting a Porsche Cayman GTS 4.0, and I was super excited about it, but I did leave you kind of hanging with a teaser, leaving you guessing what color I was going to be getting. Well, this time I won't leave you hanging. We're actually going to talk about the spec of my car, we'll talk about what's in the build, and we're going to take a look at it in the Porsche configurator. So real quick, we'll get into the basic specs of the car. The Cayman GTS 4.0 comes with a 4-liter flat 6 motor, putting out almost 400 horsepower and 309 pound-feet of torque. And it does 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. It's pretty quick, but it's by no means a supercar. So I'm just looking for a fun, quick sports car, and I think 400 horsepower is plenty enough for my needs. All right, well, let's jump into the configurator and see what options are available and what I've chosen.
All right, well, we'll start here at the Porsche website. And we'll select the 718. And then pick the Cayman GTS 4.0. Okay, so now we are looking at the configurator for the 718 Cayman GTS 4.0. And you can see what the car looks like. There are 4 standard colors. There's white, black, red, and yellow. All great colors, but not what I picked. Then they have several metallic colors that are available. These are an additional $650 to select. So if you want silver, or if you want a metallic black, there's also a dark blue and a dark gray. And then there's a pretty unique looking color here, a venturine green metallic, which I've seen in person and it looks pretty stunning, but not for me. All right, moving on, we have some special colors. And these are the ones that cost a little bit more, $2,500, but you are going to end up with a more unique looking car. Chalk, which I've seen a few driving around as well as at the dealership. Always a nice color, but not necessarily my thing. I would say it's kind of this, well, I wouldn't say it's matte colored, but it's, because it's kind of a flat color, it does look sort of matte, but it is still somewhat glossy. So it's kind of an interesting color. Arctic Gray, I think is along the same lines. It's just like a darker version of chalk, but again, non-metallic. And I know this color was used when they launched the GT4 RS. So kind of an eye-grabbing color, but this color wasn't necessarily for me because again, it's kind of this flat color, and I felt like I wanted to try and get away from kind of the monochrome colors, white, black, silver, gray or dark gray, and even chalk. They're all kind of, not that distinctive, and I feel like if I'm going to be spending a bunch of money on a car like this, I need something to stand out. And so that kind of also leaves out ice gray metallic for me, which really is kind of like a silverish, whitish color. Now, my friend Oleg actually has an order in for a Cayman GTS 4.0 as well, and he has selected this color, ice gray metallic. So I am looking forward to seeing that in person, but you can't get the same color as your buddy and then show up, in 2 identical looking cars. So I had to pick something else. And well, that leaves just 3 colors left here in the special colors category. And Ruby Star Neo is a very distinctive color, but if you've ever seen it in person, it's somewhere between purple and pink, maybe violet. Not my style either. Definitely eye-grabbing, very attractive color, but not for me. So that leaves Carmine Red and Shark Blue. Now, Carmine Red is just a darker form of red, which I think looks very classy. If you don't want a bright red like Guard's Red, you can see it's just a little bit brighter here. But Carmine gives you a little bit more of a subtle, darker red. So if I were to choose a red, I could see myself selecting this one. But, and here we finally reveal what color I have chosen. I've decided to go with Shark Blue. So I hope you'll agree with me that the Shark Blue color is very distinctive and very eye-catching. And you can see here, it allows you to visualize the car in two different backdrops. This is more of a studio look, showing off the glossy look of a car in a sort of a showroom state. And I do enjoy the color blue. As you know, my BRZ is blue, so kind of not a huge surprise that I've fallen in love with this Shark Blue color. Now, the Cayman was available previously in another color called Miami Blue, and I really loved that color as well. And I think if the car was still available in Miami Blue, I might have selected that. But unfortunately, it's no longer available, not for the 2023 or 2024 models. So we'll just click through here and show some of the other images here. So anyways, before we dive into all of the other options involved on this car, I'm going to switch over to my actual build. As you might imagine, I did go through making multiple car configurations on this Porsche website, just playing with different options, trying to visualize what the car would look like with those options, and it's kind of agonizing over a lot of those decisions. But here I have saved what my configuration looks like now, and we'll go through that. Now, if you are interested in checking out my build in more detail, I will give you the Porsche code, which is PR5NAAN1. I find it a little funny that it says non, but I do love some non-bread. Alright, so now we are looking at my exact build, and we can scroll through all of the options and talk about some of the choices that I made. Alright, so after selecting what color you want your paint to be, you do have some options with regards to the wheels. These are the default wheels that come with the Cayman GTS 4.0. I think they're pretty good looking wheels. They're 10 spokes. And they have a couple of other options here, which are the Carrera Sport wheels that are 5 spoke, and the 911 Turbo wheels, which give the car a bit more of a premium look. But that's a lot of spokes, so having owned multi-spoke wheels before, it's kind of a hassle to keep them clean, and I kind of feel like having fewer spokes is better. Although I don't love the design of this 5-spoke wheel. Normally, I would love to go for any 5-spoke wheel if it was an option, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of these in particular. So I did go for the standard 718 Sport wheels. Now on the GTS trim, they come in black. And this was something that I was thinking about for a while, and my sales manager at Stevens Creek Porsche, James, actually mentioned this to me. He said, well, on such a bright colored car, the black wheels are really going to kind of vanish into the side of the car. It's going to be very hard to see those wheels. And so he recommended that I have them painted, which is of course an option here. And so you can have your wheels painted in a couple of different colors. You can actually have them painted in silver. You can have them in satin platinum, which is more like a gunmetal darker gray. You can get the 5-spoke wheels that we talked about earlier, but you can actually have them painted in black. And in fact, you can get those 5 spokes painted in a bunch of different colors. So you can get the 10-spoke wheels either in black or silver, or you can get them painted in satin aurum, which is kind of a gold or bronze color. And what I've decided to do is go with the satin platinum, which is a gunmetal kind of color, somewhere between bright silver and the black that the wheels come in by default. So I think this is going to be a nice compromise somewhere in the middle, because I didn't necessarily want the bright wheels in silver on the blue car. And so satin platinum hopefully is the right call here. We shall see when we see the car in person. Okay, moving on. I did get the locking wheel bolts because why not? It's only $60. Might as well get them. Titanium wheel bolts are available, but for $1,500, that's a bit more than I'm willing to spend for some wheel bolts. Okay, moving on to the interior. Now here is where there are a lot of options to choose from, and I won't go into all of them, but what I will tell you is that I decided to forego the Alcantara interior, or I guess they call it Racetex, is maybe the Porsche branded name for Alcantara, or for the suede kind of interior, which kind of is part of the GTS package. But what I have opted to do is choose the all leather interior. And so that means the steering wheel is going to be in leather, the shifter, the dashboard, the door cards, basically everything will be leather. Because I thought about this for a while, and from what I've heard and read about the Racetex interior, I've heard that it doesn't wear very well, that it gets dirty and kind of oily from contact with your hands, or just touching it in everyday use. It quickly becomes kind of unattractive, and I think I would much rather have the leather interior. Now real quick, let me jump over to show you what the standard interior would look like. So the standard interior would be a combination of leather and Racetex, with the center of the seats being this Racetex texture. And I think for performance's sake, you could say that the sort of suede or Racetex texture probably would help grip you a little bit better in cornering. So it does have a performance function, but for me, this isn't going to be sort of my track car. It's going to be more of a grand tourer, and so I figured I wanted the more comfortable seats and I wanted something a little more elegant, and that's why I chose the leather seats. Now, in terms of the leather interior, once you select that, you do have a few choices in terms of what color you want them to be. But definitely was not going to go for the red interior or even the black and red interior, not on a blue car, no. So I did decide to go with the more straightforward, conservative style black leather. Now, I will mention that I had considered doing the natural leather interior in espresso and cognac, and I actually got talked out of it by my sales manager. He said that the espresso cognac was maybe a little too clashy, I guess. That it would potentially clash with the blue exterior, and so he advised against selecting this particular interior. And it's a $4,000 option, so I was already kind of on the fence about whether or not I wanted to do this. My wife actually was saying that I should get it because it looked really good, but I note that it looks good in this photo. Let's change the mode here. You can see in different lighting it actually looks different, but I actually went to the dealership and looked in person at the samples that they had for this leather interior, and it turns out it looks very different from what you see here in this image. The leather for the cognac actually looks pretty orangey in real life, and so I think that's what the concern was from my sales guy. He was basically saying, well, this kind of orangey looking interior would clash pretty badly with the blue exterior, and they're both very extroverted colors. The blue is already pretty bright, and his thought was that if you're going to do a really bold color on the exterior, then you should probably choose something a little more conservative on the interior. And conversely, if you had kind of a more conservative color on the exterior, like say white or silver or black, then you can potentially go with something a little more contrasty on the inside, but not both. And so I kind of felt that, and I wasn't feeling 100% on taking this kind of gamble with a brightly colored, flamboyant kind of interior leather color, as well as the brightly colored shark blue on the exterior. And so I ended up going back to the black interior. Okay, so moving on to seats. I ended up choosing the Adaptive Sport Seats Plus, which are the 18-way seats. The GTS 4.0 comes standard with the 2-way sport seats, which I think are pretty good seats to begin with. That's already a step up from the base model Cayman seats, which I hear are a bit uncomfortable, and I think everybody kind of recommends that you at least get the sports seats plus. But I decided to go and get the 18-way adjustable seats just because, I feel like I want this car to be pretty comfortable, and having the Adaptive Sports Seats Plus is going to be the best way to make sure that, I basically have an infinite number of adjustments and I can be comfortable in my seats. Okay. Moving along, they do offer a premium package, and what that includes is a couple of popular features. So these are the options that you get with the premium package. Just a few little niceties, additional bells and whistles. Figured it'd be nice to have them. Alright, looking at some additional exterior options. I did decide to get the headlight cleaning system covers in the exterior color. You can see them right over here. Apparently, if you don't check this box, they just come in black which maybe would be fine, but I figured why not make them match? Kind of a dumb purchase, but whatever. In the grand scheme of things, with the total cost of this car, the $300 option is actually, unfortunately, not that much. It does hurt a little bit, though. In terms of performance, well, it's kind of an odd place to put this option, but this is where you select between whether you want the manual transmission or the PDK. And I have selected the manual transmission, the 6-speed. Now I know in this modern day and age, the PDK or automatic is actually the faster choice. It's actually going to shift faster and help the car get a slightly better 0 to 60 time. But because this is meant to be a sports car, a fun car for me to drive on the weekends and feel the driver engagement, the joy of driving, all those kinds of things, I felt like it was important for me to get the manual transmission. I will also mention that you could, as an option, get your brake calipers painted in black. And I actually thought about this one for a while because I kind of thought, well, with the GTS trim, one of the themes of the GTS trim on all of Porsche's lineup is that you end up having more black accents. But since I'm already deviating from that a little bit by changing the wheels to the satin platinum look, I figured I've already deviated a little bit from that. And for $900 to paint your brake calipers, that's a bit much. And so I stuck with the red calipers, which come standard on this car. And although the red, I feel, does clash a little bit with the blue paint, I also feel like it's kind of a standard thing on Porsches. You got to have the red brakes, right? It's this kind of classic style of the Porsches. And really any performance car, right? Anytime you see some car with a big brake kit, more often than not, you're looking at red calipers. I think I was worried that the red calipers would stand out a lot and kind of clash with the blue paint, but I've noticed when I look at some real life photos of a blue car with red calipers that the red calipers don't really stand out that much. Usually they're in some sort of shadow, and so they're a little bit more recessed inside behind the wheel, and so they don't stand out as much as they do in photos like this. Moving on to lights and vision. There used to be a few more different options for the LED headlights, but I think because of supplies and parts shortages, they've narrowed it down to basically one option. You can get the PDLS system, which I think is worth having. Gives you a little bit more of a dynamic LED headlight system with the cornering lights, speed-dependent headlight range control. I think it's worth it for only $660. So I went for that upgrade. I think it gives you a slightly different look to the headlights as well. See what happens when you uncheck. Oh yeah, so pretty distinctly different if you get the standard headlights without this option. I think having the sort of 4 points of light as the running lights is kind of a new Porsche trademark. And if you want that more modern look, you got to get this option. Okay, moving on. Interior options. As I had mentioned, I I got the interior with the black leather, and along with that I decided to do the interior trim, which is this metallic trim along the dash and the doors. Went for brushed aluminum on that. The standard interior that you get, it looks a little more like plastic that's been painted to look like aluminum, which I feel like looks a little bit cheap. And my wife, when she saw it, felt the same way. So that's why I decided to go for another $900 upgrade, unfortunately, to make things look a little bit nicer with the brushed aluminum. But I do think it'll make a difference. Then we get to the seat belts and seat design. And I did opt for the Porsche crest on the headrest. Unfortunately, when you choose the leather option, you lose the GTS logo that comes standard on the headrests when you get the GTS 4.0. So rather than having it be just a blank headrest, I decided, well, for $290, why not add the Porsche crest back on there? And then to complement the exterior shark blue paint, you can get seat belts in a matching color. So I'm getting those in shark blue. I think that'll give a nice splash of color to the otherwise black interior. And as I mentioned before, the GTS comes with a sport steering wheel in leather. You did have the option of getting it in race tex or suede, but like I had said, I prefer it to be leather. And you also have the no-cost option of getting it to be the multi-function steering wheel. I believe with the premium package, it becomes the heated multi-function steering wheel. And I've also chosen the brushed aluminum trim for the gear shift. And yet more options for the interior. I actually decided to get these stainless steel illuminated door sill guards. James, my sales manager, had suggested that I get these because they add a nice touch to the interior, something to greet you every time you open the door. So I thought they did look pretty nice, so I went for that. Lots of other options here, you can see. Endless ways to spend more money. But last one here on the list of the interior options, I did choose the deletion of race tex. So basically saying I don't really want any of the suede material on the seats or the steering wheel or the gear shift. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, with the leather seats and this deletion of race tex, it got rid of the GTS logo that was on the headrests. And that's why, like I said, I went back to add the Porsche crest on the seats. Okay, getting close to the end of the list here. Under technology, well, let's talk about assistance systems here. I did get the lane change assist that's included in the premium package, but I did not opt for the adaptive cruise control because that's another $1,600 option, and to be honest, I just don't know if it's worth it. I mean, I've had friends tell me that it's a life changer, that it's fantastic to have, but I just don't see myself using it that much. We have adaptive cruise control on my wife's Mazda CX-5, and we hardly ever use it. It's just the way we drive, I guess. We're not used to having that feature, and we don't take advantage of it. So why would I pay an extra $1,600 for it if I'm not going to use it? Some of the other options that are included with the premium package, the entry and drive, and the light design package. But I've also checked a couple other boxes here. Preparation for Porsche dashcam. For $130, my friend convinced me that it's worth having just to have the pre-wiring included in the interior, so that if I want to install the dash cam later on, it'll be easy. Still don't know if I need one, but at least have the option. The smoking package was another thing suggested by James, my sales manager. He said it kind of cleans up the center console a little bit, because otherwise if you don't choose this option, you have this kind of opening here kind of at your elbow, and by choosing this package you get a little cover, and it kind of tidies up the look of the center console. And last but not least, audio and communication. And here the only option that I've chosen is the Bose surround sound system for just a little bit under $1,000. I think that's probably worth having to have a decent sound system. They offer an even higher end surround sound system for $4,690. I'm not that much of an audiophile, so I don't know that I need to pay that much for the high end system, but I figured a little bit of a nice sound system would be good to have for, road trips and drives that I go on. Some of the other stuff that they offer is a bit pricey. The navigation for $2,300. I just don't know in this day and age whether it's worth it to pay for built-in navigation on a car. Everybody has smartphones now, and this car does come with Apple CarPlay, so I will be able to pair my iPhone to the system and use that for navigation. I really don't see the point in paying another $2,300 for navigation. They also have some additional options. Voice control, I think, has to be tied into the navigation system, so even though it says it's a $0 option, you can't get it unless you buy the navigation, so pass on that. And then there's an additional option here for a smartphone compartment, which I guess just allows you to wirelessly charge your phone, and I think it comes with some sort of signal booster for your cell phone as well. Yeah, so, but for $560, I feel like that's an expensive option that I don't really need. I think I can just plug in my phone, since I believe the version of Apple CarPlay that this car comes with requires that you plug in the phone anyways. It's not a wireless connection like it is in the newer 992 generation 911, like the one that I had rented earlier this year. That one had wireless Apple CarPlay, and that was great, but unfortunately the 718, at least at this point in time, doesn't have a wireless connection for CarPlay, so you do still have to plug the phone in, and if I'm going to do that, then there's not much point in having the wireless charging system here whenever I'm going to be using the phone in conjunction with the car infotainment to do navigation or whatever. I'm already going to have it plugged in. And that is it. That's pretty much the configuration. You can kind of see here at the bottom a summary of all of the options that I've picked. I think I've talked about pretty much all of them at this point. And as you can see, these options on this car are not cheap. It looks like I've spent about $15,000 in additional options on a $95,000 car, and so that takes me well over the 100K mark. This is easily going to be the most expensive car I've ever bought at $112,250. I hope it's worth it. As I mentioned earlier, I will provide the build code so you can punch it in and check out everything that I've chosen on your own. And so look through that if you want and leave me comments. Let me know what I did right, what I got wrong. What would you have done? Would you have done something differently? Do you think I made a bad call on some of these options? Let me know in the comments below.
Okay, so that is my build, and if you can't tell, I am very excited to see the car when it finally arrives later this year. I believe it's probably going to be about another 30 days from now, so I've got a little more waiting to do. In the meantime, leave me a comment on how I did, whether you agree with the choices and options that I chose, or would you have done something different? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.